Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Tranquil Living Uruguay podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa. For those of you who just found this podcast, I am an American Latina millennial expat and have been living in Uruguay for 5 years. For those curious about visiting or moving to Uruguay, I share real life lived experiences to help you have a better understanding of what life here in Uruguay is like from an American perspective. I want to do a little recap on current things going on here in Uruguay, like back to school. This week, the kids went back to school. And in this episode, I am sharing what the back to school season looks like here for young families with elementary school children. And I'll just kind of deep dive onto what school is really like here in Uruguay based off of our experiences. So let's get into it. The school year always starts the first week of March. So that's when kids go back to school here. Some private schools start a week before the rest of them, which I just found out this year. That happened this year. So, not our school, but some private schools do. So, just to keep that in mind. For parents that are curious about what schooling is like here, I'll share my experience so far as a parent to a first grader in private school here in Montevideo. This year, our daughter started elementary school, which is first to sixth grade. Before that, she was in what is considered preschool, which is 3 years old all the way up to 5 years old. Kindergarten is considered the 5-year-old nivel cinco, and that's part of the preschool curriculum. She's at the same school because her school has preschool, elementary school, and junior high. So the school that we handpicked was one that was recommended to us by my husband's Spanish teacher. And we selected this kind of Montessori inspired school that has, like I said, preschool, 3, 4, 5-year olds, which includes kindergarten, the 5-year-olds. And that inicial can be half days or full days, just depending on what the family chooses. And then elementary grade school, grammar school is first through sixth grade, and that is called primaria. It also has a junior high, which is grades 7th through 10th, which they call secundaria. 11th through 12th grade is called liceo here in Uruguay, but my daughter's school just has the preschool through junior high. So when we get to 11th grade, we'll have to switch schools when she gets there at some point. So our daughter started in Inicial Nivel Tres. She was 3, about to turn 4. So we have already been at the school for 3 years now. It's not bilingual, and that was intentional by choice, as we wanted our daughter to get a good grasp of the Rio Platense Spanish language. But they do have English classes and they do have Portuguese classes at this school. This year, she will have English twice a week and Portuguese once a week. At some point in the future, I will definitely take her to formal English classes so that she can get a good grasp of the English grammar. I mean, we speak English all the time at home. But when it comes to grammar and all that stuff, I will be putting her in English classes. Here, a lot of people take like the British Anglo English, but I want to put her in the American style English, obviously, because that's what we speak at home. So when it comes to schools in Uruguay, schooling here is based on a standard half-day model, which covers like the minimum curriculum requirements. It will either be a morning or an afternoon shift, and this is particular to public schools. Private schools usually have a full day model, which follows a standard half day, school requirement, and then followed by the second half of the day for extracurricular activities that they sprinkle in. In our case, extracurricular activities include swimming, yoga, art, music classes, and an environment class this year, which includes gardening and also the language classes as well. In our case, our school starts at 8:20 a.m. and goes on until 4:40 p.m. At 10 a.m., there's a break for morning snack time, where each kid has to bring fruit. And lunch is at 12 noon. At 3 p.m., there's a break for afternoon snack time where they have to bring a snack, which is usually baked goods. And they just ask that it's homemade and not junk food. Um, and there's also two recess times throughout the day for the kids, in addition to their merienda and which is like their snack time. They call it merienda. One thing to note about something that is different here is school drop off and pickup. So growing up in the US, like we had a carpool line where the parents, got in line, dropped us off, and there were handlers basically taking us, helping us get out of the car with our backpacks and taking us into the school or into the area that we had to be, which is obviously easy, efficient, and parents can just be off and on their way to work hassle free. Here it's different. Each parent or caretaker, whomever is bringing the kid to school or picking them up, needs to park their car on the street and physically walk the kids up to the school. In our case, we have to walk our kids all the way up to the classroom. But when they get older, like third, fourth grade, they'll eventually just, run into the classroom. But we have to physically bring them to the school, like enter the school door, grounds, property, so they can get to their classes. And for pickup, same thing. I pick up our daughter at the door of her classroom. So all the parents are waiting outside. I'm constantly running into, talking, or interacting with the other parents of the kids in her classroom. And it's actually been, at first I was like, oh, it's a little too much. Like I'm constantly saying hi, bye to like these parents in the morning and the afternoon. But the school bus is like a very family friendly environment. So we've been able to get to know at least the parents, we've been able to get to know each other pretty well that way as we're kind of like waiting around for pickup. So in this case, like depending on where your school is located in the city, Montevideo, parking is like a little bit of a hassle. So you always have to plan ahead of time to get to school on time to find a good parking spot. Before the school year starts at the beginning of January, the school sent out the list of school supplies and materials, and we had 3 weeks to purchase them and deliver or bring them to the school in person before the start of the year. And I don't think this is typical for public school, but our this is the way our private school does it. And just to note, school supplies weren't required for preschool as the cost of the school supplies and materials were included into tuition. So this was the first year, entering first grade, that we had to get all the school supplies, materials ourselves and bring it to the school. And the reason why this is done is because the teacher organizes all the school supplies ahead of time so that the students are able to just kind of like begin the year calmly and like hit the ground running. The one other thing we were asked to bring in was an empty box, like a shoe box, something like that size. It could be any box. And that was just for the kids to have like their own space to store extra supplies, such as if they lost like their colors or colored pencils or erasers, glue, they can just kind of like store everything in their box. There were only three educational books that we had to purchase this year. Uh, the first one is like the main first grade education book, which the school gives directly to the student. And it's like a workbook style textbook, which is like the official workbook for reading and writing here in Uruguay. It's called the CLE. CLE. The second book is the Portuguese student workbook, which the school gives directly to the student. And the cost for the Portuguese book and the CLE book was included or added to the tuition cost. The third book is the English student workbook for English class, and we actually had to go and purchase that separately, and that cost us about $35. At the beginning of each school year, we also have to send in a copy of the student cedula or ID. And yes, kids do have their own IDs here. We had to send in our, up-to-date vaccine certificate and our up-to-date physical aptitude certificate, which is signed off. That one is signed off by the pediatrician. And this is just to make sure that All the health information is up to date so the kids can start school. The week before the start of school, the Thursday before, it fell on Thursday before this year, we had a parents meeting for the first graders where we were able to meet the teacher in person. We did an icebreaker game, with the parents. We set like intentions of what we wanted for our kids for first grade to be for the year. And we also met the new parents that were joining the school because, like I said, we had already been there before for preschool. So a lot of the same kids transitioned over to first grade. A couple kids left due to personal reasons or, you know, moving away kind of thing. And then we ended up getting 5 new students in our class at the start of first grade. So 5 new families that we were able to meet. And this was nice. Like I said, it's good to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page. The principal, which they call the directora of the school, was there and they discussed some changes to the school. The first change this year was there's a new company in charge of the cantina, which is the cafeteria, the cocina. So they actually this year went digital and they have an app where you can go in and order lunch for your kids. You just kind of by 10 a.m. you have to select what lunch options they should have, and then you can also like preload your student's account via the app and add money if they want to, if there's like snacks or anything that they want to order for the afternoon snack time, they can do that and mark it off in the app. So I think that was a great addition, going digital on that. The second major change was a schedule swap in the extracurricular activities, particularly for like swimming. So for swimming, the kids are taken to El Club and the club, and they're taken there by bus 2 times a week. The club is actually a recreation center, and this is where they do PE, physical education, and the swimming. So instead of going in the mornings this year, now they go in the afternoons, which was a schedule change from prior years. And then the third change that we found out about was that they were going to begin offering after school activities at the school for the kids, like aerial acrobatics, and then also for the parents, like while the kid is at the afternoon school activity, they'll have like a yoga class for the parents during that same time. So I actually really like that idea. The school, it's they're very family and parent friendly. And I really like that. So those activities have not started yet, but I'll let you know how they go when when we actually do that. Um, I think there are major advantages for having your kids in private school here, and those are just some examples of some of them. Like I said, the after school activities, the club, the recreation center where they can do swimming, and all that good stuff. Um, the main one I would say is Glue. My daughter is just an amazing swimmer now because of this. The full day schooling option and the extracurricular activities in the day. And since our school is like Montessori inspired, they also have a big focus on meditation. And I personally love this part of our daughter's school, and it's why it makes it so unique. Every morning, before they start the day from 8:20 to 8:30 in the morning, that's dedicated 10 minutes of meditation time in the classroom. And that's where the principal goes on the PA system and she does a 10-minute morning meditation with like calming music. There's no school announcements. It's just strictly meditation time. And the parents are invited to participate in the morning meditation with their kids. And most parents attend and stay if they can. Um, During this time, it's, quiet time, and the kids, they'll have like notebooks where they can like color or draw in. This year on the school supplies list, they asked for a mandala coloring book, which was specifically for the meditation time. So it's just like a nice, like I said, extra 10 minutes of quiet time sitting with my daughter at her desk, holding her. It's just like a great way to spend, a dedicated 10 minutes, to calm the mind and spend quality time with your kid. And then I also get to kind of be Snoopy and see the classroom and see what the kids have been working on and what the teacher has going on in the classroom. There's also an afternoon meditation, but that is strictly for the kids. And like as a kid, I went to private Catholic school, so the meditation part kind of reminds me of a prayer time that we would do in the morning and the afternoon. Private schools do require uniforms. In our case, it's just a regular cotton t-shirt with the school logo and a skirt for the girls. For when it's cold outside, there's a jacket, school pants, and then there's a long sleeve polo option. Um, and so we had to get, a new set of school uniforms because, kids grow. And so taking the tally of everything, like one each of all the items, the school shirt, the skirt, the pants, the jacket, the long sleeve polo, the skirt, all of that came out like one pair each to about $85 this year. They can wear whatever shoes and socks they want. And in public schools, it's a little bit different. So, in public schools, kids can wear whatever clothes that they want, but over it, they have to wear a smock. It's a white smock. They call it a tunica. And you can purchase it at like any store, grocery stores, have them. And this is to promote like standardization in dress across the board for the kids. And the tunica, which is the smock, it's also required for preschool, but they have a different color. Usually it's like a checkered green or red colored smock. So overall, we've been extremely happy with the private school that we chose. It's more because it's very family friendly environment. Classes are about 10 to 18 students, and there's like one classroom per grade. So it's a very small school, but it's a school that's been around for 30 years, and I just feel so lucky that we were able to find it. Um, it's just been like a really overall great experience. Due to the half day curricular requirement, I just wanted to note that the teachers often have two schools where they work at. So, for example, our daughter's teacher, she teaches the required curriculum in the morning, and then in the afternoon, she teaches at another school. And just one stark difference here from the US is that whenever there is a paro, which is what they call a strike here from the teachers union, whenever this happens, the teachers go on strike. It means schools are closed for that day or days, depending on how long the strike is set for, which is inconvenient, and it causes families to scramble and like find childcare for their kids for that day. Typically, it's just 24 hours, like a one day thing, and they give a 24-hour notice. So the day before is when you find out about the strike. In the last 3 years, we have participated in the school system. It's happened about 8 times. Um, we're one weekend, so far so good. No paros yet. But that is something to note that's different because that would have never happened in the US. So this is where private school comes in very handy because although the teachers aren't required to be at the school because of the teacher strike, there are staff and personnel on hand to cover the teachers that are on strike. And usually the teachers from the extracurricular activities, they usually continue on for the day. So it just turns out being like a modified school day. Like you're not required to bring your kids to school on the day of a paro, the teacher strike, but you can if you want or you need to. Another advantage of private school in our case is that there are two auxiliary teachers or like teacher helpers on hand, and they're there all day. They help with like loading the kids on and off the school bus when they go to El Club for swimming. And they're also around to help for recess time. And my favorite is that they help with our kids during lunchtime and like heating up their lunches in the microwaves if they brought lunch from home. So this work doesn't just always fall on the teachers for the little kids trying to heat up their foods in the microwave. As some of you know who have been listening for a while, we chose to live in the country in the outskirts of Montevideo. So we have about a 35-minute commute in to the school. But for us, like I said, it's absolutely worth it because of how much we love our school and the family friendly culture that it fosters. There are plenty of different types of private school options out there. And um, if you're new to Uruguay, I would say just kind of go check them out. Go on these school visits. They call them interviews. Go on these school interviews and check it out and see what would be the best fit for your family because there's a lot of options out there for you if you choose to go the private school route. So well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for listening or watching this podcast. If this episode helped clarify things for you, please like, follow, or subscribe to the show and share thoughts or questions in the comments because I read them all. And my goal of Tranquil Living Uruguay is to be your passport to Uruguay, a place I call a hidden gem south of the equator. Whether you are traveling through or if you're an aspiring expat, I'm sharing real life lived experiences from the perspective of an American Latina millennial expat. And remember, life abroad doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be tranquil. Cheers.